Welcome to the NFC West Huddle, the home of the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks and the teams that know them best. I'm Lauren Helmbrecht in Seattle, joined by our experts from around the division. In the Bay, we have Keyshawn Ward. In Arizona, Megan Plain. And in LA, Nick Boffman. The Seattle Seahawks world champions defeating the New England Patriots 29-13 last weekend, further cementing that the NFC, and specifically the NFC West, strongest conference and strongest division in football. Both LA and SF had to face Seattle 3 times, so you obviously knew what to expect with the Seahawks team. Starting with Nick in LA, I'd love to hear your takeaway from the big game. Was it hard to watch that matchup knowing that the Rams played the Hawks tighter than the Patriots could?
No, not at all. Honestly, I was just there to enjoy the game. And to be real with you, Bad Bunny, he was the best part to me because that was just a straight blowout. I thought they might have made it a game until Drake May went down throwing that interception straight to the defense. And then after that, it was time for Seattle to celebrate. So, no, it wasn't hard for me to watch that game being here in LA. But I will say that I was in Seattle the final week the baseball season before the M started the postseason. I felt the energy as the city was so happy for the M's, and for them to go out like that, it was only right that they got to get a Super Bowl in return. So honestly, I'm thrilled for Seattle. I think the city deserved it, and I'm happy for you guys. Like, that's what's up.
Thank you so much, Nick. And I can imagine in LA too, that game further cemented that Matthew Stafford was the rightful MVP versus Drake May, who really struggled against what was the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. It was telling. Drake May, he clearly, he wasn't necessarily ready for the moment. His offensive line didn't help him. But yeah, Matthew Stafford with that experience, you could tell comparing the games between the Patriots and the Seahawks and the trifecta that we have between the Rams and the Seahawks, Stafford, his experience and everything, it made it obvious that, he was the guy, end all be all, like you just said, for the MVP. And, everything worked out in its own right. With him being MVP, Seattle winning the Super Bowl, it all worked out. The guys who won should have won. Let's be real.
Thank you very much, Nick. I know Seattle fans love to hear that perspective. Now, for Keyshawn, Nick's talking about, hey, we felt the energy when I was in Seattle for the M's. You probably felt the energy directly because that game was being played in your backyard. Obviously, a lot of Seattle fans made a lot about Levi Stadium becoming Lumen South or Seattle's new home. What was that like watching a division rival win at the Niners' home?
Well, Lauren, I know it was heart-wrenching from Niners from jump because in the pregame, you had Kyle Shanahan and Fred Warner, dressed up in suits with their hair all nice and well done on the sidelines while the team's preparing for the Super Bowl. So I know that's very heart-wrenching for Niner fans. And now I'm even seeing the memes where Seattle fans are calling it Levi Stadium because Seattle took over the stadium and won the Super Bowl in the 49ers' backyard. But I mean, what makes it even worse was it was a fantastic defensive performance by the Seattle Seahawks while they just dismantled the Patriots from start to finish. I mean, look how, just the quarterback pressures they had on Drake May throughout the game. I believe he was hit about 3 times. He got sacked 6 times, and he was hurried up 14 times in that game. So I'm sure Niner fans are just, hoping and wishing that someday they'll be healthy, where they have all their players like Fred Warner, Nick Bosa on their sidelines so they can play in a big game or just win a Super Bowl in general because it's been almost 30 years. The last time they won a Super Bowl was before I was born. So I was born in 1995. They won it in January of that year, so I wasn't even born yet. So, yeah, I'm sure Niner fans, they just want to get this done down in SoFi Stadium next year. But, man, it's definitely a tell of how great the Seattle Seahawks been this season.
Keyshawn, one of my favorite quotes leading up to the Super Bowl was Seahawks defensive lineman DeMarcus Lawrence talking about a quote he had heard from a former coach talking about Genghis Khan and how they go and conquer other people's lands, and then you post up your signs indicating, hey, we post our flag, we've taken over your land. And then later we see Sam Darnold posted on the side of Levi Stadium. Just tough stuff for 49ers fans there. All right, Megan, obviously not to poke any fun, but the Cardinals have been home for a bit of time, so maybe a little less emotional investment in the Super Bowl. Did you have a favorite moment down in Arizona watching Super Bowl 60?
It was a little disappointing given the lack of scoring. Obviously, we knew it was going to be a very defensive game, right? So not necessarily a surprise. But, you know, I would agree. I know there was the take that Bad Bunny might have been the best part of the game. I thought that was pretty entertaining. But yeah, it was pretty boring for most of the game. At one point, I was like, are the Seahawks about to shut them out? Like, how's this going to end? But yeah, I'll give the halftime show, right? I've been kind of checked out on the football season since the Cardinals, you know, things didn't go very well for them. I moved on to baseball now. That's kind of where my focus is.
I definitely understand that spring training right around the corner down in your backyard in Arizona. As for me, obviously, I cover this team. And so to be able to cover a team that wins a Super Bowl is amazing. I was back here in Seattle getting to watch the Seahawks and the defense that we've talked so much about throughout the season. And I think one of the biggest knocks on the Seahawks is that they didn't have that one guy. And so in the landscape for everyone who's trying to watch this game, they're looking out for the guy. Who's the guy? The one that's going to get all the sacks, etc. And for the Seahawks, they had so many guys that were able to show up in big moments. I mean, Riley Mills had his first career sack in the Super Bowl. The defense was stacked from top to bottom. Every single person showed up in that game. And yes, there was not a lot of touchdowns being scored. In fact, it was the Jason Myers show for most of the game and the Michael Dixon show. But it also showed that when you invest in special teams and you invest in all three phases, you could do really well. And then I was just so impressed to see quarterback Sam Darnold. He was able to rise to the moment and to not turn the ball over. The Seahawks had 0 turnovers in the postseason after that being such a major story going into this season. And so the Seahawks stepped up and just won. They just flat out won. They beat the Patriots. They were the better team going into the game, and they are the best team in football, winning Super Bowl 60. And just being back here in Seattle, it does so much for a community when the team wins. People who might not have anything in common come together because they all support the Seattle Seahawks. I was covering the parade and seeing nearly 1 million people take downtown Seattle filled with so much joy. People are crying. Kids are saying, I've never seen this. Now, Keyshawn, to be fair, those kids were only 13 versus 30, but they had never seen it. And to just be feeling that much joy, it really brings a lot together. So that's enough from me. I know you guys don't want to hear all about the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl.
Keep bragging.
Yeah,
over
blah,
there.
blah, blah. I feel like someone on my birthday.
Hey, Lauren.
Yes,
Lauren,
go ahead.
I will say this. Niner fans not want to hear this, but you guys probably have bragging rights for life because you won a Super Bowl at your NFC West opponent's home field. Like, that's something that can never erase in history unless the Niners, you know, give a couple Super Bowls. But, boy, you guys have bragging rights as of right now for life in the NFC West.
Oh, pardon me. Let me just shake it off the shoulders. All right. Well, that's a great start to the show, obviously, for me. But we're going to start talking about what's coming next. So coming up on NFC West Huddle, we're going to talk about the impact of former Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak leaving for Las Vegas. That's when we come back. Welcome back. Former Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak had a very busy week. Wins the Super Bowl, gets introduced as the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, then flies back to Seattle to take part in the victory parade. Now that he's out of the NFC West, starting with Nick, how do you feel like his departure is going to impact this division?
Well, definitely, I'd say more positively for everybody else. I mean, that's the beauty of it. Well, in your guys' terms, I should say, the sad part about it is obviously when you win the Super Bowl, guys are going to leave. That's leaving for head coaching jobs. Guys might, different contracts. We'll see what happens in Seattle. If you guys can keep the same band for the most part, that's scary for the rest of us. But as far as Kubiak, yeah, that's for the NFC West. I mean, obviously, there's still going to be some dogs, the Rams coming back. Obviously, trying to, what happened the last time he got a Super Bowl back here in LA. So trying to repeat that, obviously, with Stafford and maybe his last season. The Niners, hopefully healthy. We'll see what happens with them. They're going to be some dogs again. And the Cardinals, we'll just have to find out once again. They still got a lot of decisions to make there. But as far as the NFC West, it might be a little bit hurtful for obviously the Seahawks, but for the rest of us in the crew, great. As far as the AFC West, I mean, they're going to get a dog going that direction. The Raiders, they obviously needed some help for a while. They haven't been able to figure it out yet, but their pieces are there. They got to put it together. But honestly, that's obviously a huge piece, getting the head coach of that status. So great for the NFC West, and for the AFC West, we'll see, but maybe watch out.
Thanks so much, Nick. I'll go next. Obviously, that is just the price of success. When you win, you're going to lose guys because they become too expensive or because they have better job opportunities. And so Clint Kubiak getting the opportunity to go coach the Las Vegas Raiders. I was talking yesterday about, is that a better opportunity? Is that a better job? And obviously you have Ashton Genty and potentially getting Fernando Mendoza at quarterback. But you never know when you're going to get an opportunity to become a head coach. And for someone like him who's worked for a very long time and he's worked his way up, he deserves to take that opportunity. As for the Seattle Seahawks, they're looking within the organization to go for another offensive coach to take on that OC role. But it sounds like Kubiak might be potentially taking some of Seattle's coaches, at least taking them for interviews. I saw today their wide receiver coach is going for an interview with the Raiders right now. So price of success, that's what happens. It'll be tough for the Seahawks to replicate without Kubiak, but they still have a lot of the components. And with this revitalized Sam Darnold and potentially Kenneth Walker returning, if they're able to negotiate a contract, I think the Seahawks offense will be a factor. Obviously, they're still going to be carried by their defense, and that's not a bad thing. Keyshawn, what are your thoughts?
I think it impacts the NFC West drastically. Not a lot of people want to hear this from Seattle, but I have a feeling that it might actually expose the offense a bit. Sam Darnold was great because of the play action that Kubiak was able to implement, and it really manipulated the second line of defense, whether, it created mismatches, as you saw with JSN against the Rams when he's going against a linebacker and beat him in the end zone, or even just in general how the play action really opened up the offense for Seattle. With Kubiak being out now going to Las Vegas, who's going to replace him? We got to see. And as Lauren just mentioned, is Kenneth Walker going to be there next year? He wants a new contract. And then you're going to be dependent on a running back in Zach Charbonnet, who's coming off a torn ACL. So there's a lot of questions on the offense. The defense is straight, but I think that really benefits everybody else in the division, whether it's the Niners staying healthy, the Rams bringing back all their players and coaches after this whole coaching carousel this went by. So I think that the Seattle Seahawks will definitely have a lot of questions to answer on offense. Now, in terms of the AFC West, Kubiak gives the Raiders a punching chance because in that division, you already got to deal with Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, all teams who have made postseason runs before. And Raiders, as of late, they have not been competitive at all. So, Kubiak being paired up with the #1 overall pick, soon to be Fernando Mendoza and the Heisman Trophy winner, will be definitely entertaining to watch. But it's not going to be enough to, win the division outright. But I think it definitely gives them a punching chance in the future.
All right, Megan, I know in Arizona they're happy for any opportunity that they can get for another NFC West team to lose some top talent, right?
Oh, 100%, right? They need a little bit of help, right? But no, I agree with Keyshawn. I think when it comes to the AFC West, yeah, it's going to be great for him to have that top pick in Mendoza, but I think it's going to take a while for him to turn that thing around. I definitely don't think it's going to be an overnight sort of thing. I think that the Raiders are going to remain at the bottom of that division for a few years probably, given who their competition is. And then when we take a look at the NFC West, I don't think that Kubiak leaving is going to have too drastic of an impact on Seattle. I do think given that their defense is so strong and such a big part of what they do, I think that they should be able to, bring someone in to kind of keep that offense afloat and keep things rolling, at least up to the standard that it has been. So I'm not too worried about them in that regard, just given how elite that their defense is.
And like I was saying, we're heading into the offseason. There's going to be a lot of moving parts in this offseason with players leaving from free agency, with coaches taking new opportunities. Many already have. And that's just what happens in football. The season ends, you win, and then you see who comes back. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the NFL offseason and this division's prospects next year. That's when we return on NFC West Huddle. Back here on NFC West Huddle as we move to our last few topics. First up, I want to know what the #1 focus for your respective teams are this offseason to ensure that they make it to Super Bowl 61. Nick, I'm going to start with you since I know that the Rams would love to have a home field advantage in the big game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it'd be. We know what happened the last time the Super Bowl was back in SoFi Stadium, so we'd want nothing more down here in Los Angeles than for that to repeat again. Big question for the Rams is how they're going to implement that defensive back room and getting better there. Obviously, that was a problem for them in the stretch, especially against the Seahawks. So being able to figure out that we're going to get in, they're going to have to bring somebody in that's going to make a bigger difference, along with certain guys that are already in that may have shined a little bit to step up there. So I think that defensive back room is a big thing for them, as well as getting better at special teams. I said this a few weeks ago, but special teams cost the Rams a lot this season in games that made a difference down the stretch. So being able to get that special team situated, proper kicking, proper special teams on the defensive side of the ball in the sense of making things happen. Also, obviously, catching a punt. Like, geez, like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, things like that, the simple things that make a difference down the road, they're going to have to make a big emphasis on that. That's going to have to get better if they're going to want to be able to repeat being champions in their own crib again.
Nick, going into that NFC Championship game, I was talking on one of our shows about when you have two really good teams, sometimes it can come down to the little things like special teams. And whereas the Rams hadn't had a lot of investment there, the Seahawks are paying their kicker, their punter, and their kick returner big money just to be here. And sometimes that's what it comes down to when it's good versus good.
Absolutely made a difference. I mean, now you got a kicker who's scored the most points in a season in history. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, that's what happens when you pay guys and invest in the right guys, and they win you games. I mean, he's dang near single-handedly helped you guys win the Super Bowl.
Single-footedly.
Yeah. Single-footedly, that's a better way to put it, exactly. So, yeah, that makes the difference when you invest and get the right guys.
All right, Megan, talking about investment, lots of questions going into the Cardinals and this offseason, the future of the team. What do you think needs to change this offseason?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see once Mike LaFleur finishes rounding out his entire coaching staff, everybody that he brings in there, obviously, and the team, they're going to have to get accustomed now to new coaches, get a feel for how they like to do things. But I think what the Cardinals really need to do next year is they need a complete overhaul of that offensive line. It was a big problem spot for them last year, so they need to, through the draft or if they find guys in free agency, they need to bring a lot more guys in who can replace some of the guys that they've had there on that O-line. And then the defense really needs to revert back to what we saw from them a season prior. This season, the defense really fell short of expectations. And, I mean, they have some decent pieces, right? They brought in Josh Sweat. They have guys like Budda Baker. Obviously, for the team injuries, it was a big thing, right? There was no team in the NFL who had it worse injury-wise than the Cardinals. But at the end of the day, everybody deals with injuries, so you can't use that as an excuse. So they need to stay healthy. The defense needs to take it up a notch next year, get back up to that caliber that they have been previously. Then that O-line really needs a complete overhaul.
Megan, thank you so much. I know Keyshawn is eager to refute that statement that no team has had to deal with injuries worse than the Cardinals, because I know he's down there in San Fran. I know he's down there in San Fran talking about, wait, we were missing like our whole roster. So obviously getting healthy is probably what they need to do this offseason, right, Keyshawn?
Yeah, Lauren, I was ready to jump out the screen and jump into this box and tell Megan straight up, what are you talking about? What the Niners just went through was like a nightmare.
Time missed.
I understand, but I feel like the Niners go through this every season. Health, injuries has always been a Niners issue for the past couple of years. I mean, this past year, now granted, they did step up with all these injuries that they had and produced 13 wins and a wild card win in Philly. But, man, you saw what it looked like when it went in Seattle in the division round. They got curb stomped immediately. I mean, and then some of the things that they have to address, though, on a serious note is they got to really, beef up their offensive line from the left guard, the center, and possibly even replace Trent Williams in the near future because he's getting a bit long in the tooth. He'll play this upcoming next season, but they got to have a future plan for that position. I mean, but all seriousness, the Niners have got to get healthy. I mean, when you lose a guy like Brock Purdy for eight games or longer, Fred Warner and Nick Bosa for the season, the #1 draft pick, and Micah Williams Williams. It's really hard to battle. They were able to do it last year, but they want any opportunity to win a Super Bowl. They got to get healthy.
Keyshawn, does that mean they have to move their practice facility because there might be some stuff on the building next door?
You know, Lauren, that's the big talking point down here at the substation. I don't know too much about it. I mean, it's a bit of a conspiracy, in my opinion, because they've been pressing there since probably the 70s. I mean, Jerry Rice and them, they didn't get hurt when they're pressing on that same field. So I don't know if I'm willing to say that's the reason they got to move out of there, but they just got to figure out something, whether it's getting a new training staff, a nutrition staff, something, because this thing is becoming just too repetitive. It's like, man, every year you guys have all these injuries. What's the problem?
I don't know what the problem is, but I do know that for the other teams in the NFC West, they don't necessarily mind when the 49ers are sidelined with injuries because it gives us a leg up. As for the Seattle Seahawks going into this offseason, the big question is, how are you going to be able to run it back? What are the Seahawks going to be able to do to try and keep as much of this core together, try and keep the things that made them great in the house so that they can be great again going into next season. Now, we've already said a couple times on the show that the Seattle Seahawks defense is what really buoyed them this season. They really helped on that 10-game win streak to close out the year. And yesterday at the parade, we saw Big Cat Leonard Williams on the mic, maybe a couple drinks in, but still on the mic yelling, I'm ready to run it back. I'm coming back. I'm not retiring. And that's already a huge plus for this Seahawks defense. But then the question becomes, okay, who on the offense are they going to be able to keep and who can they afford to keep? Though they have a lot of space with the cap, they have one of the most cap spaces in the NFL. I believe it's like top 5. Well, they still have to figure out how they're going to divvy that up between Kenneth Walker, between Rashid Shaheed, and then, of course, some of the defensive players that made this defense so great. And then you've already lost Clint Kubiak, so how can you replace the offensive coordinator? There are a lot of questions with this Seahawks team going into the offseason. That's not a bad thing, and I think that's a great challenge for head coach Mike Macdonald. He loves the challenge of trying to gamify, of trying to figure out how we can make the best with what we have in-house. They were able to do it this year. They've been able to improve each year under Mike Macdonald. Going into year 3, it's going to be more of a challenge, and they're going to be a big target on their back, but I think that he's excited about it. Well, that's going to do it for us here. And just because the football season's over doesn't mean we're taking a break here on NFC West Huddle. We'll be breaking down the offseason each week, and you can tune in on the Fox Local app. For Keyshawn, Megan, and Nick, I'm Lauren in Seattle. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope that you have a great week.